But on that note, Matthias Fredrickson says, used to love Grace Randolph and stuff happened. Well, I've never cared for her. And on that note, I think that's a good segue into the Mario business. Because Mario is just ripping through the box office, isn't it? Culture, what did it do last night?
Well, you know what? I don't even have the latest numbers up. I know that on Wednesday we did $31 million domestically. Internationally, did $34.7 million. So just Wednesday alone, it did $66.4 million. Based on its performance, I don't know, Pro, did you get the numbers for today yet?
I got 26 million here.
Yeah.
And so we have watched the ceiling on this go up and up and up. Yeah. It was at I think 90 million was the ceiling at one point a few months ago. Then it increased to 110. I'm doing this off the cuff, so anybody correct me.
No, I think you're right.
I'm not claiming to know this authoritative, but then it went to 128.
Yes.
Then it was at 135.
Yes.
A couple of days ago, I think they were saying 141, and that's where it had stopped.
That was yesterday. Yeah, yesterday.
Okay, so today I think they're saying that 150 is possible. I think that's the latest numbers. I'll have to go look again to see, but I think 150 now.
I predicted last night it might hit somewhere over 150 to 175.
Yeah, and
domestically.
I'm actually going to have to change my number again because I think 160 may be short of where this thing's going to hang out. I think we are looking at 185 possibly. I think domestically, I'm thinking.
You know what this reminds me of?
Yeah.
This reminds me of what Marvel movies used to be 1 decade ago, because that's when you had initially high projections, but they constantly had to be revised upwards and upwards and upwards, and then the final box office tally was higher than even that, because the word of mouth was just that strong. And I've seen this movie myself, and the reviews that I have heard, both from people online, people I've seen in the real world, and most importantly from their kids, is 100% approval rating. And the ones that they get the most are the parents of the kids who are the target audience.
Yeah.
So I've got a note from a contact, and I'm not claiming that I'm not putting this on the level of a source. Don't mistake me. But what I've got here, and maybe it's from the Deadline article, I'm not sure. People can check this, but is that Universal is actually the one holding on to the 141 right now and not going higher with the projection because they're trying to maintain expectations at this point as everybody grapples with what this film has done in the first, 3 days. Of course, we've not concluded the third day, but we've got an idea of what the third day is going to do But so that's Universal itself is
I don't
out there
blame
trying
them.
to.
You know why? Yeah. Because they don't want to suddenly increase projections by too much.
Yeah.
Because then suddenly they increase them more than the actuals. Then the movie is still a win across the board. But then suddenly the headline is going to be from an industry trade that is a dead set against this movie that, the movie came in below projections. That's why they don't want to increase projections. They see that, this guy is going to go way past projections. But
and why would you not
keep the projections low and that way get that extra media win by Deadline Hollywood and the Hollywood Reporter and all of those who are championing against this movie being forced to admit that it opened higher than projections.
Andre, you've nailed it. Why would they not? I hadn't thought of that, but why would they not want every single day of this weekend a new headline that says Mario beats expectations? And they do that by saying, hey guys, whoa, we're still at 141 right now.
Exactly.
Yeah, you nailed it.
That way you get the headlines higher than projections and expectations. The moment they increase it, or if anyone does, that's when they get the opportunity to say, if it suddenly comes below the elevated expectations, but it opened below expectations. And then you're able to put a negative spin on something that right now is blowing everything Hollywood wants to do good out of the water. Make no mistake about it. And WDW Pro, you know this. Hollywood was dead set against this movie. I
Well, they hate
really enjoyed your reporting from 2 weeks ago, and I do reference it in my upcoming movie. How you exclusively reported that there was pressure within Hollywood to make this a typical identity politics fair, where
Yes.
the movie was going to be about Peach, who could do absolutely no wrong. And as you also correctly reported, there would be traces of this in the movie. But Nintendo intervened and made sure that it's still ultimately about Mario. And the movie that we got is obviously a compromise between two competing visions. But
You
with
can feel it
Nintendo
too.
having power and sway, I think what ended up was close to perfect. But yes, carry it away.
Well, so I agree with you on all points there. So what I had been told was that this movie, when you watch it, and this was, I think like a month ago is when I started talking about this Princess Peach issue. Of course, I had talked about the Nintendo Cinematic Universe going back, I believe, almost to the very beginning of when I started my YouTube channel. January 13th, I think, is the first time I mentioned it. And I think I exclusively broke the Nintendo Cinematic Universe news here on Midnight's Edge. Is that right?
I believe so, yes. Because
Yes,
that
and
was,
so
I think that was way back in December. It's actually when we had Adam Kotelik on, I believe. Was
that was
when we randomly started talking about it. And I think that I started by saying that I think that Super Mario is going to be the biggest movie of 2023. And that's when you said, whoa, it's amazing. Well, actually, yeah, you came in because we were talking about it anyway. And then you were ecstatic in the chat and we sent you the link. And that's when you started talking about
Isn't that fun that it happened organically, that I came on and said, oh, guys, I've got something you have to know about.
Yeah.
Well, so yes, and it's been so pleasant to see Chris Pratt now come out and just literally say it in exactly the way that I said it, only, I guess, 4 months later now, but that there is a Nintendo Cinematic Universe, that this is going to be a decade or more of these movies. I do suspect that we're going to arrive at a Super Smash Brothers, Avengers-style amalgamation of all of these properties come together. I even believe that there will be negotiations going forward to bring Sonic the Hedgehog into that, maybe Pac-Man, maybe some other characters, because I think this is going to be so huge that these other studios like Paramount are going to want to forge a Sony Disney kind of alliance. The other cool thing about this is that I think that Disney, by choosing to go divisive and choosing to please the critics, and Illumination choosing to listen to Nintendo and go with a more traditional story that critics despise, they hate it, they loathe it, but audiences love it.
Yep.
This has really put them in a position where who cares what the critics say? It's going to be a decade of the Nintendo Cinematic Universe owning the box office. I mean, I don't see any opportunity for Disney and their animated films to ever overcome these movies. If you think about it, Iron Man did not start off the Marvel Cinematic Universe and stay as the top movie of all time. It was overcome over and over as the thing grew and became bigger. Why would we not suspect the same would be true of the Nintendo Cinematic Universe? So if you have a starting point of a 5-day $150 million or more, why would you not think that Zelda has the opportunity to make 180, 190, 200? Why would you not believe that? And then you think about all of these different Nintendo properties that are out there. You could easily begin to see year after year after year, Nintendo is the number one box office pull for families, and Disney is sitting there eating the crumbs in third place. What are they going to beat it with? Honestly, you think Strange World 2 is going to come out and clean its clocks? You think Elemental or Wish are going to do it? They're going to have to. I mean, Frozen 3 maybe has a chance, but I doubt it. Does Frozen 3 at this point beat Zelda? Does Frozen 3 at this point beat a Pokemon movie that's made with Nintendo actually at the helm now, saying, no, we're not doing another Detective Pikachu. We're going back to what works. And to your point about the influence that Disney or that Nintendo had on this movie, I actually think that there are points in this movie where you can detect that Nintendo came in and said, no, we're going to explain this. There's a part where Peach, and I don't want to spoil it, but where Peach comes in and says why it is that she has the abilities she has. She is not a Rey Skywalker.
Yeah.
And so, those are those feelings where you're like, okay, I can feel the tension in the script where at some point somebody came in and said, no. That we do have girl boss heroes in our universe, but Peach is not one of them. She's really cool. She's been a part of these games, but she is a feminine character. She is a princess, and we understand that she can't be directly rescued, but she's going to be somewhat rescued because that's the role that Mario and Luigi play. And you can kind of feel that. And I think, too, that the critics, I mean, they have just been pulling at straws trying to find something they can criticize because their darling Disney is falling apart at their behest. And Nintendo is doing well while they wish that it did something completely different, something else. So I think that Chris Pratt, his voice is fine. He does a great job. I thought that Jack Black as Bowser was fantastic. And I think the critics really don't have anything to complain about. They just hate that they don't have influence.
The fucked up part is that when you listen to Grace Randolph's review, for instance, it's like she's trying to use the same critical points we would be normally for a film, only she's just trying to apply it where it doesn't exist.
Right.
Yes, making things up.
Yeah, she
exactly. And it's like she's trying to do what we would do to a review normally for a movie that is woke, but she's doing it for a movie that's anti-woke, or not necessarily anti-woke, but just not woke, really. So and I think that's the part.
Give an example real quick to the audience. She comes out at one point and says, and I hate to do this to anybody, you know, God bless her, but there's a point where in the criticism it said that Brooklyn looks photorealistic and the other people look photorealistic. So why do Mario and Luigi look different? And I went to the movie expecting that because I'd heard that, and I walked in and was like, that's not like, were you drunk when you saw this?
Yeah,
they look like all the other characters.
Yeah,
cohesive.
Yeah. And again, I mean, she's wrong. I mean, Brooklyn does not look photorealistic.
But no, it all is a cohesive art style.
Exactly, and that's again, it's something that I think I'm convinced, and I said this last night a couple of times, and maybe even hanging out with you yesterday, Pro, that she and we watched different films. Or she didn't see the film at all and just took somebody else's talking points because
it's one thing, culture. It's one thing to, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but it's one thing to say, I dislike a movie because this happened in it and I don't like that. That's fine. Right. It's another thing to say that something happened and you watch the movie and you're like, that's not in there. Yeah. It just doesn't exist.
Yeah, it's very strange, and the things that she complained about that weren't explained were explained with like lines of dialogue in the film. I'm like, I can't go too deeply into it, but I will say this before I have to step out here and say this. I fully expect this film domestically to make now. I'm moving my prediction up to about 180 million. Can you imagine this film opening to 360 million global on the 5-day? It's made a profit at that point easily. I mean, I can't imagine them spending more than 110 million on this film. And I don't blame Universal, Comcast Universal for not adjusting their.
They did Minions for 90.
I know. That's what I'm saying with the celebrity voices, right? I would say 110 would be the top I would give it, is how much you spent on it. But
Culture, who was the voice actor for Toad?
In the Key and Peele guy.
Yeah. So he doesn't get enough credit either.
No.
The only voice that's not great is the is Donkey Kong.
Jeff Rogan.
Yeah, but it doesn't fit the character.
I wasn't as hopped up on. I was critical of Chris Pine's voice. I love Chris Pine as an actor, but I did not feel like. Or sorry, Chris Pratt. Yeah, I did not feel. But I didn't feel like he was a good matchup for Mario. And I felt like everybody else aside from Seth Rogen and him were great matches for their characters. But
and I disagree with you, but that's okay.
You guys feel free to disagree. I'm just saying that I just.
But last but not least, I don't blame Universal for not adjusting their things because, as Pro said and Andre said, in business you want to underpromise and over-deliver when you're trying to make a first impression, and this, as Pro has pointed out, is the first impression for a Nintendo cinematic universe.
But those are like the biggest of my gripes, right? Like outside of that, I was more surprised by the film than I thought I would be. And Jack Black is the best performance probably he's ever done.
He does phenomenal. He does.
I have to step out, gentlemen. I apologize. I wish I could stick around longer. I appreciate everything you guys are going to talk about. Be listening to you while I am doing some other things I got to take care of. I appreciate all of you. You guys, you should be subscribed to all of these gentlemen. They are amazing, and I will see you all again. Bye.
As well as you, Culture.
Bye,
well,
Culture.
Thanks for joining us, and everyone should also be subscribed to Culture Casino. So check him out in the description, where you'll find a link for everyone in the panel. But with that, yes, W, carry on.
Well, real quick too, I want to give an example to these movie critics out there who, for whatever reason, they decided that a children's animated film was a place to make up crazy lies. I mean, if you don't like it, that's okay. There's parts about the movie that I didn't care for. I thought it needed to be 10 minutes longer, but my gosh, I'm not going to go out there and say, crazy stuff where anybody can go verify within, the next day or two that didn't happen. But here's an example of those movie critics on how to make amends. Culture was just referencing the pro show that we did 5 to 7 yesterday, and it's Thursdays 5 to 7. But we always lead into Midnight's Edge after dark as well. That's where we redirect to. And we should have taken care of getting Tom on the show yesterday, and we failed and messed up at that. And so, apologies to Tom. I don't like when anybody is mistreated, and especially not Tom Connors. He's too big of a guy to do that to. So, movie critics.
You told me you weren't going to make fun of my weight no more.
So movie critics, take that as an example. We all mess up, right? We all have errors, and we can fix that just by saying, you know what? I messed up there. And so I would like to see on Movie Math, I don't know that I'll watch it, but I think it may be the highest grossing Movie Math in terms of audience ever. But I would like to see some of these movie critics come out and say, whoops, this is really popular. Maybe we didn't understand what the charm is. Maybe we need to reassess. Maybe there is something to this Mario idea. Maybe families do just want to take their kids and have fun and be entertained and not have to walk out of the studio and say to their child, now let's talk about how two mommies can have a baby.
Yeah.
Good credit?
Eating mushrooms? Oh, nope, that's Mario.
I thought it was good credit.
Well, I mean, parents are in charge, so they don't have to answer questions they don't want to of their kids. So
That's true.
That is true, but it would be. But I think families have become fatigued from Disney content that continually asks them to be put in awkward situations that they may not have been ready for. It's not that parents are inept, but you can take any number of Disney movies that have come out recently, and it just puts parents in a spot where they're like, I just wanted to have fun. I'm going to go do the Minions instead next time because we don't have to do these kinds of car rides home.
And I wouldn't be giving the critics such a hard time on this one because normally this is the kind of rating I would expect them to give a movie like this. Same thing with all these superhero films. Like, that's the abnormality, right? As soon as the critics started liking this crap is when the audience said, fuck you. Because, yeah, they never used to make this kind of crap for the goddamn critics. They already knew that the critics were going to hate this shit. It was kind of preordained that way. And to me, it's just like, I'm sticking up for a film that is about at best a 7. Look, I'm going to be probably on the middling ground with this Mario movie. I'm not a huge Mario person. I enjoyed it, but I don't understand why they're giving it such a hard time, right? Like, what the hell do you expect from a movie called Super Mario Brothers? Well, we clearly get what they expect from it. Just listen to Grace Randolph. She's not getting the messaging she wants.
Exactly.
She is freaking out over the villain actually doing villainous things,
Exactly.
In the Me Too era.
Chris Pratt is a Christian, and she doesn't like that.
And let's not even just, the fact that she's just trying to find reasons to hate the movie because Chris Pratt's in it is just the most disturbing of all. But hey, it is what it is. Like, at this point, it's like, why do these critics, what do they expect out of a fucking Mario movie? They're like, their biggest complaints are, it's simplistic and it's 90 minutes long. And I'm like, good. Good. I am sick of kids' movies that are over 2 hours long. Tell you, sit in a Pixar movie with a 6-year-old and a fucking 4-year-old for over 2 hours and see what happens. After about 90 minutes, they're like, can we go? Is the movie over yet? Can I get a candy? Can I go play one of the video games?
Sticky floor.
Exactly. They're like, blah, 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 blah. They don't care after that point. 90 minutes is like the most you could expect kids to sit and be interested in a film. After that, they start to just wander.
My favorite criticism they do has got to be where they say, and they do this over and over, that if you're not familiar with Mario, then you're not going to like this movie. And I'm sitting here thinking, who's not familiar with Mario? Like, this has become ubiquitous with childhood. Like, everybody has sat down with some version of this character at some point and gets the concept. I mean, this is one of the most recognized brands on the planet.
Yeah. And to Tom's point, though, even if in the hypothetical event that you as a parent are not familiar with Mario, or say that you're a grandparent who skipped out on it altogether. It doesn't matter, because the movie works completely on its own. No prior knowledge of the source material is required whatsoever to enjoy the movie. And anyone who claims that they didn't enjoy the movie because it was too complicated, too much lore, and it wasn't friendly to those not familiar to the lore, they are flat out lying. It's an excuse to dislike the movie.
You guys think we get a change to Rotten Tomatoes yet again to try to make this where they don't get tomato on their face? They continually do this where when audiences don't agree with the critics, they have to do something about it. I just wonder.
Yeah, and I mean, I made this point on Twitter because a few people were bringing that up, and I dug out my old images from our videos where, you know, it showed a ton of examples where the discrepancy between the audience and the critics. And there was even articles that were brought out about it not even a year ago where there's this, at no time in history has there been a bigger discrepancy between the critics and the audience, right? There always kind of been this curve or whatever you want to call it, where the audience and the critics would cross over at some point, but they were usually always diametrically opposed when it came to certain things like, you know, adventure films or action films, exploitation film, you know, children's films, for instance. Like Pixar was like an anomaly, and I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, Pro. Like when Pixar came on the block, that changed everything. Not only did it change just the way movies were made and how studios produced and, you know, distributed their animated films and how they advertised them. They literally made an Academy Award because the Pixar films kept getting nominated for Best Picture. And they got
just
so
called the
pissy
John
about
Lasseter
it.
Award.
They might as well have, because that's basically what happened is they created a brand new award for Best Animated Film because every single year they were getting sick and tired of Pixar movies getting nominated for Best Picture.
And yet they ran off the guy who was that good that Pixar won every single time to the point they had to have a category. They ran that guy off, and now they're suffering the consequences. It turns out that when you have a genius who is at the very extreme of the Pareto principle, running that genius off is one stupid thing to do.
Yeah. And that's exactly what this needed.
And what's funny is the upstart company kind of, sort of, because, I mean, Illumination's kind of the new kid on the block in comparison to the rest of them. And now they're whomping all their ass, really. They're
going to have to hire a lot of people. They're going to have to expand, and they've got to do it in a way they can maintain the quality they have. And by the way, here's something I haven't brought up at all about Mario. You guys tell me if you saw this, but every character in the movie was animated correctly according to, I'm sure, what the Nintendo Bible showed for them, you know, on how to keyframe this. Mario's run animations are correct. His jumps are correct. His facial expressions, for the most part, are correct. There's one comical scene where it looks more Minions-esque. But the one character who does not fit the Nintendo style is Peach. And every time I watched Peach, I thought, this is the same animator, the same lead animator who did the Grinch. It's got to be, because she has that wonky, like, rubber bandy face emotive look that Illumination characters often have. But everything else was just, you know, Toad looks perfect, Luigi looks perfect, but Princess Peach, she just kind of, you know, she's got that weird kind of thing going on there that you see out of Gru and the kids from Despicable Me.
I kind of see what you're saying, yeah. It's harder for me to notice in computer animation. I notice it more in 2D animation. But I get what you're saying, yeah, where you can tell one animator clearly worked on, because that's usually how it works, especially the main characters.
So they're going to have to grow like crazy, because let's think about this. They want to do their own original films, no problem there. How else do you birth new IPs? So absolutely. They're rebirthing Shrek. We all know this now, right? So Shrek's coming back. I would suspect they're not bringing Shrek back for a single film. I would suspect they want to do, you know, multiple. Plus they've got the Despicable Me series, right? Because Minions are so popular, you can't let the Minions go. Anything that you can produce for $100 million and make $1 billion, there's no way on this world that they're going to drop that. And now they've got the Nintendo Cinematic Universe, which honestly could support 2 films a year. So
Actually,
that's a studio.
They shouldn't go beyond 2 films a year.
No, I agree. Don't
And
go
that's
beyond.
for quality control as opposed to oversaturation.
Yes.
Yeah, Script, I want
That's
to
a
hear
studio
your
that needs to
thoughts
grow.
on this because I know you only have very limited time.
No, I think this is fantastic. I have no idea why in the Mario they wear the white gloves. I can only assume that maybe it's an homage to the fact that there are private services that offer what's called a white glove service, and that's what they're doing with Mario to justify and explain that. That's what I would do as a writer, because that's a thing. You can hire plumbers, you can hire movers, and they say we offer a white glove service, and that's what I get. And I don't understand any type of criticism against that anyways. It's part of the characters. But no, I think Universal's doing really well going this route. I think they are, if the box office performs correctly, they keep the story simple and they make them fun and enjoyable and hit those 4 quadrants, which basically means it's a broad appeal family film. They could definitely dominate the decade. And if they are, the smartest thing for them to do is to learn from all the mistakes that Marvel has made over the past 5 years. And they're right out there plain to see. So we can only hope that that's the case. And I think DreamWorks jumping back into Shrek is a good idea, and some of the other properties that they have as well.
You're right. I conflated those 2 studios. That's my fault.
Oh no, that's okay. I mean, listen. I mean, it's all computer animation. So many people thought Shrek was a Disney film for years. It's clearly not. But it just happens to be that way because, again, Shrek used a whole bunch of fairy tale properties that Disney no longer had a license to.
But what's interesting, and you corrected me there, and I appreciate you doing that. I don't want to be wrong any more than I have to, especially not in front of an audience. So thank you for correcting that DreamWorks is Shrek. But that is yet another danger to Disney then, because you have now 2 studios which are bringing their A game, and after seeing what Puss in Boots did, why would they not? So here you have 2 studios that are seeing great success on very low production budgets. And Disney's out here producing these animated films for $250 million. And they can't make a profit lately.
Well, because this axiom is true. Necessity is the mother of invention. And this could actually segue into your next topic, which is that the less money you give a creative, the more they have to be creative in order to pull off what they have with the limited resources at their disposal. And that was one of Ike Perlmutter's mandates when it came to his participation in Marvel. And
Script, let's pretend that I was wrong on purpose and that I knew that about Shrek. Let's pretend that you and I did that as a script, let's say, it seems apropos, so that Grace Randolph and the other critics can see how this is done when you are wrong.
Sure.
We'll go with that. But
Andre doesn't sound convinced so far. Andre seems a little skeptical on that one.
But Script, we are regrettably losing you. I just want to say thank you for being here today and for, as always, sharing your valuable insights. Everyone should check out Script's channel as well as Patreon, both of which are linked to in the description. Anything that you want to plug on the way out?
No, other than on my Patreon, I dropped a brief video for all patrons of the premium tier. So, and it's only like 2 minutes, but it's just little thoughts on Star Trek Picard, and eventually that will drop on my channel. But yes, just pay attention to what I'm doing on Twitter, because I'll be directing you here. Stick around to this show. They have a few more topics to address, some of which are very great and support.
And tons of super chats and member chats.
And tons of super chats, but some are very great, especially the ones that where Tom, Andre, and myself have had conversations years before about how fans putting all their eggs in the one basket that is Kevin Feige is not to their benefit. And so stick around and see how that plays out, and have a wonderful day and a weekend, and happy Easter for everyone that celebrates. Take care.
Yes.
Take care, Script.
See you, Script.
Thank you, Script.